How does a man born into wealth learn to work like the poorest person in the world, and in doing so build an empire that would reshape American industry and politics? This is the story of Charles Koch, a market philosopher who transformed a family business into the second largest private corporation in the United States, all while navigating fierce family war and leaving an indelible and controversial mark on the nation. Charles Koch's journey began not in a boardroom, but under the stern and watchful eye of his father, Fred C. Koch, the founder of the company that would one day become Koch Industries. Born into an industrial family on November 1st, 1935, Charles and his brothers were not granted the luxuries one might expect. His father, a man forged in the crucible of hard work, instilled in his sons a relentless work ethic. He famously told them to work as if they were the poorest people on the planet, a philosophy that would define Charles's entire life. This was not a childhood of privilege, but a harsh training ground designed to build character, resilience, and an unyielding drive. This foundational training was complemented by a world-class education at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. It was here, amidst the equations and engineering principles, that Charles discovered a different kind of blueprint, the architecture of free market economics. Immersed himself in the works of Austrian economists like Friedrich Hayek and Ludwig von Mises, becoming captivated by their ideas on individual liberty, limited government, and the power of the free market. These intellectual currents didn't just shape his worldview, they would become the very core of his management philosophy and the guiding principles for the empire he was destined to lead. Armed with a bachelor's in general engineering and 2 master's degrees in nuclear and chemical engineering, Charles was a man of both industry and ideas. In 1961, he answered the call to return to Wichita, Kansas, and join the family business. It was a pivotal moment. The theoretical principles he had absorbed at MIT were about to be tested in the real world of oil refining and engineering. He was not just an heir, he was a student of the market, eager to apply his learning. Then, in 1967, tragedy struck. His father, Fred Koch, passed away, leaving a void at the head of the company. At the young age of 32, Charles stepped into his father's formidable shoes, taking the helm and renaming the company Koch Industries in his honor. But the transition to power would be anything but smooth. The greatest challenge to his leadership would not come from competitors, but from within his own family. The dream of a unified family dynasty soon fractured into a bitter and public feud. The 1980s became a decade defined by a brutal internal power struggle, a veritable family war. His younger brother, Bill Koch, grew disillusioned with Charles's leadership style and strategic direction. In 1980, Bill orchestrated a bold move, attempting a coup to seize control of the company's board of directors. But Charles, allied with his twin brother David, stood firm. They successfully blocked the takeover, but this was only the opening salvo in a long and painful battle. What followed was a protracted legal war that stretched for years, tearing at the fabric of the family. The dispute was not merely about money or control. It was a clash of visions, personalities, and philosophies. The conflict played out in courtrooms and boardrooms, creating deep and lasting wounds. Finally, in 1983, a resolution was reached, but it came at a high cost. Charles and David made the difficult decision to buy out their other 2 brothers, Frederick and Bill, for a staggering sum of approximately $1.1 billion. This monumental transaction officially consolidated their power, making them the majority owners of Koch Industries. The war was over. Charles had emerged victorious, but the scars remained. He now had absolute control, and with it, the freedom to fully implement his vision for the company. With the family conflict resolved, Charles Koch unleashed the full force of his ambition and intellect. Under his undisputed leadership, Koch Industries underwent a truly phenomenal transformation. What was once a mid-sized petrochemical company blossomed into a sprawling, diversified conglomerate. He steered the company far beyond its roots in oil refining, venturing into a vast array of industries. From mining and pollution abatement equipment to polymers, fibers, and forest products, the expansion was relentless. The company even extended its reach into consumer products and livestock, creating a diversified portfolio that insulated it from the volatility of any single market. The results were astounding. Koch Industries' annual revenues soared, eventually reaching over $100 billion, cementing its status as an industrial titan. At the heart of this explosive growth was Charles's unique management philosophy. He codified and named market-based management (MBM). This was not just a set of business strategies. It was a comprehensive system born from his deep-seated belief in free market principles. MBM organized the entire company as an internal market, where departments interacted based on a price mechanism, fostering competition, innovation, and accountability. It emphasized decentralization, empowering employees to act as entrepreneurs within their own roles, and relentlessly focused on creating value. This philosophy was paired with his legendary work ethic. Charles was known for working grueling 12-hour days and famously expected his managers to work weekends, believing that relentless dedication was the price of success. As his business empire grew, so did his desire to shape the world outside of it. Charles Koch, along with his brother David, became one of the most significant and controversial political donors in modern American history. They channeled hundreds of millions of dollars into a far-reaching network of libertarian and conservative organizations, think tanks, and advocacy groups. Their goal was to promote the free market principles they so fervently believed in. A cornerstone of this effort was the founding of Americans for Prosperity, AFP, a powerful grassroots organization dedicated to fighting government regulations, opposing efforts to combat climate change, and advocating for lower taxes and less government spending. His opposition to government intervention was absolute, even when it seemingly went against his own company's financial interests. For instance, he became a vocal critic of ethanol subsidies, despite Koch Industries being a major producer of ethanol. To Charles, the principle of a free market, unencumbered by government interference, was paramount. However, this unwavering political activism came with a heavy price. The Koch network became a lightning rod for criticism. Charles found himself at the center of intense political controversies and environmental lawsuits. In his later years, he began to express a sense of regret, not for his beliefs, but for the consequences of his actions. He lamented that his political efforts had inadvertently contributed to the deep and toxic polarization that had come to define American politics, acknowledging that Republican administrations had also been guilty of overspending. He signaled a new willingness to find common ground and cooperate across the political aisle. Charles Koch's life is a complex tapestry woven with threads of family legacy, intellectual passion, ruthless ambition, and profound influence. His journey is a testament to how a single individual armed with a powerful philosophy and immense wealth can not only build one of the world's largest private companies, but also fundamentally attempt to reshape the economic and political landscape of a nation. It is a story of overcoming not just business challenges, but the deep pain of family conflict to forge an empire in his own image. From the harsh lessons of his father to the intellectual fire of MIT, from a bitter family war to the creation of a political force, Charles Koch's story is a powerful and cautionary tale of the burdens of legacy and the far-reaching consequences of conviction.